Caliban, the enslaved islander in The Tempest, is one of Shakespeare's most provocative and multilayered creations. Half-human, half-monstrous, both victim and villain, he blurs the boundary between sympathy and condemnation. As the dispossessed inhabitant of Prospero's island, Caliban stands at the center of the play's political, moral, and symbolic conflicts. His character forces readers to confront complex issues surrounding colonialism, nature versus nurture, power, resistance, and the fragility of civilization. Role in the narrative. Before Prospero arrived, Caliban was the island's sole original inhabitant, the son of the witch Sycorax. When Prospero and Miranda landed on the island, they taught him language, offered care, and briefly treated him as part of their household, until Caliban attempted to violate Miranda. After that, Prospero enslaved him, forcing obedience through threats and magical punishments. Caliban's narrative function begins here. He embodies the wronged native whose claim to the land directly conflicts with Prospero's claim to power. His sense of betrayal fuels both his bitterness and his rebellion. Caliban's partnership with the drunkard Stefano and Trinculo provides some of the play's comedic scenes. His naive worship of Stefano as a god, his drunken singing, and his misguided plot to kill Prospero all create farcical moments that lighten the play's tone. Yet beneath the comedy lies tragedy. Caliban's desperation, credulity, and longing for liberation are painfully real. The humor thus becomes layered. The audience may laugh at Caliban, but they are also encouraged to question why he is so easily manipulated and whether the laughter is at his expense or at the absurdity of colonial domination. Caliban's plot to overthrow Prospero aligns him with a classic Shakespearean archetype, the rebel seeking to reclaim lost power. But unlike other rebels in Shakespeare's works, Caliban lacks strategy, allies, and political insight. His choices are driven by emotional wounds rather than calculated ambition. His rebellion fails comically because he trusts the wrong people, but thematically, his failure underscores the power imbalance between colonizer and colonized. Prospero's dominance is absolute, and Caliban's revolt, however justified, never stands a chance. Despite this, his rebellion is essential to the narrative. It highlights Prospero's authoritarian rule, dramatizes Caliban's longing for freedom, and exposes the tragic futility of his resistance. Symbolic significance. Perhaps more than any other Shakespearean character, Caliban embodies the concept of the other, the marginalized, demonized figure against whom norms of civilization are measured. His physical form is described as monstrous, his behavior as barbaric, and his language as crude. Prospero repeatedly calls him a born devil, while Trinculo refers to him as a strange fish. These labels strip Caliban of his individuality and reduce him to an object of fear or amusement. Symbolically, Caliban becomes a mirror that reveals others' prejudices. His monstrosity is not merely physical but socially constructed. He is made monstrous by those who view him through the lens of superiority and fear. In modern literary criticism, Caliban is widely read as a powerful symbol of colonized peoples. Caliban's statement, "This island's mine, by Sycorax my mother," is one of the most explicit declarations of indigenous sovereignty in Shakespeare. His resentment of Prospero parallels the historical anger of subjugated peoples, and his rebellion, though comically rendered, captures the widespread resistance found in colonized regions. One of the most famous lines in The Tempest is Caliban's complaint about language. "You taught me language, and my profit on is, I know how to curse." This statement positions language as both a gift and a weapon. Prospero gives Caliban language in order to civilize him, but Caliban uses it to express rage and resistance. Symbolically, this mirrors how colonized peoples adopted the language of their colonizers to critique and challenge oppression. Caliban is often described as a creature of nature. His connection to the island is deep, intuitive, and spiritual. He knows its sounds, currents, hiding places, and fertile grounds better than anyone. Caliban becomes a representative of an uncorrupted but misunderstood natural world. His association with earth and instinct contrasts sharply with Prospero's association with air and intellect, highlighting the play's larger tension between nature and civilization. Broader implications. Caliban is both victim and wrongdoer. He has been enslaved, robbed of autonomy, and demeaned. Yet he also attempted to assault Miranda, a deed that Prospero uses to justify his harsh treatment. Shakespeare refuses to simplify Caliban, presenting him instead as deeply human, flawed, wounded, capable of cruelty but also capable of beauty, loyalty, and artistic expression. Some of Caliban's speeches contain extraordinary lyrical beauty, particularly his description of the island's music. These passages contradict the dehumanizing language used by other characters and reveal a rich inner life. Shakespeare uses Caliban's poetry to challenge assumptions about civility and refinement. The monster possesses a sensitivity and imagination that exceed those of the supposedly civilized Europeans, destabilizing conventional hierarchies of culture and intellect. Caliban's rebellion fails, yet it remains symbolically essential. His desire for freedom is profoundly human and morally compelling. Even though he chooses foolish allies, his resistance represents the instinctive demand for autonomy and justice. The failure of his revolt reflects the overwhelming power imbalance between colonizer and colonized. But the act of resisting carries dignity, even when it is not victorious. By the end of the play, Caliban shows signs of reflection. He realizes the foolishness of trusting Stefano and vows to seek for grace. This moment suggests that Caliban, more than Antonio or Sebastian, is capable of introspection and change. Shakespeare uses this contrast to highlight the irony that the monster displays more moral growth than the so-called civilized nobles. Conclusion. Caliban is one of the Tempest's most fascinating figures, a character who serves as a victim, a rebel, a symbol, and a moral question mark. In the narrative, he embodies the tension between colonizer and colonized, power and suppression, rebellion and futility. Symbolically, he represents the other, the indigenous subject, the natural world, and the resistance to cultural domination. His broader implications extend into discussions of colonial history, racial prejudice, linguistic power, and the complexities of victimhood. Ultimately, Shakespeare gives Caliban dignity through his emotional depth and poetic language, challenging audiences to confront their assumptions about humanity, civilization, and power. Far from being a simple antagonist, Caliban emerges as a tragic, compelling figure whose struggles resonate far beyond the island and the play.